Hey there, Pat. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Matt. Can you see me?
Hey, Pat. Can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
Oh, maybe I need to turn up my volume. Can you hear me, Pat?
No, I can't. Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. That's perfect. So, good
Okay,
deal.
I've got something in front of you. It says, I don't know what to do with it. Oh, I guess I have to. Okay, there. Can you see me?
I can't see you. No,
How do I make that? How do I change that
Oh,
so that you can see me?
you hit the camera on the bottom left. It says video.
It says start video.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, that's it. Okay, got it.
Cool. Hey, Pat. Good to see you.
How are you?
Good. I'm gonna check on Dennis. I'm outside, and I'm gonna
Oh,
use
I
the
see
phone
that. Yes.
as the camera. So I'm gonna go down and coordinate with Dennis real quick. I'll be right back.
Okay.
And in the meantime, I'm going to bring up a map that you can look at, and tell me if you see this. Let me go back to the screen, the
By the
webinar.
way, I may have to leave this meeting early because I've got an appointment at 1:30. So it won't be because I don't want to be here. Okay.
Okay, all right. Can you see the map, Pat?
Yes, I can.
All right, cool. Well, I'll be right back, Pat. I'm going to check in with Dennis.
No problem.
Thanks, Pat. I can send you the recording afterwards as well.
All right.
So I see some other people. Reverend Anthony, how are you? Good to see you. Glad you're checking in. And Charlie, I'll be right back. I'll check with Dennis. Let's see. Hi, everybody. I'm back. I'll stop sharing the screen, and we got a couple of minutes before everybody comes on. I'm trying a little bit of an experiment out here. I've got Chris set the Wi-Fi up. Maybe you can see this. Chris set the Wi-Fi up over there where Dennis is in the gator, and that's broadcasting to here.
Oh.
And I've got my my Jeep here where the computer is. So the room moving. It looks like my office, doesn't it, Pat? It's a mess. So,
Yeah.
like, yeah,
Actually, it
that's
does,
Matt.
yes.
So,
Well, at least you'll be able to find things.
oh, that's the important thing. I know everything that I own is here, Mark, so I just got to look for it somewhere. So, just a matter of finding it.
Well, your Jeep looks like my desk, so.
Yeah, that's a pattern for sure. What I'm going to do is I was going to start us with looking at some maps of what we've done with metal detecting here on the property, and talk about the general significance of metal detecting to Montpelier, and then we'd head down to the site. And I'll be right back. I'm gonna grab a chair for this, so I'll just a short run across the road. Be right back.
Okay.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Weather today.
All right. Well, I actually went and got a chair so I can be here on my Jeep with my everything at my disposal for a little bit. So good to see everybody. Hope you all are doing well. We're
Yes.
let's see, we've got yeah, Laura and Jean and Beth, Kelly, hello, Deb, Debbie, looking forward to seeing you next week. And looks like Hannah and Taylor are on there as well. And Rachel, hello. But as I mentioned earlier, we're out here at the home farm. Directly behind me, you can see the site that we're going to be visiting a little bit. It's the blacksmith site that Dennis is metal detecting right now. And then across the road from me, I'll move my camera here from my computer. Across from the road from me is the overseer's house. So you can see where we're usually positioned for the Friday Lives and for the one that we did 2 weeks ago and we'll do next week is over in the excavation units at the overseer's house. So, and then of course the rest of the home farm is above, is upslope. So the visitor center is up there. Beyond Dennis's car there is the tobacco barn. And then down below is the quarters for field slaves. What we call the quarters for field slaves, it's really the quarter complex for the home farm. And you look at where these quarters are and look where the blacksmith shop is, you know, there's undoubtedly folks who are working in the blacksmith shop who are living in those slave quarters. So, and Dennis is down there digging some hits for us to see. So
as you pan out to the slave quarters, I think the camera needs to be adjusted a little bit. It's overexposed, so we're seeing a lot.
So you can't see that.
Seeing
Let's experiment with this.
A lot of white.
Yeah, it looks like this camera isn't going to do much.
Snowstorm.
I've got my when I'm out with Dennis with my phone, I'll show some of that.
Ground.
What's that, Peggy?
It looks like there's snow on the ground.
I thought
behind you.
Yeah,
all
the
behind
light.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that too.
It's cool enough out here, but not that quite that cold. So.
Oh no.
So, but looking forward to seeing you, Peggy. So.
Thanks. Me too.
But for the for what we're talking about today, last week Mary talked about iron items, you know, all the nails and the cooking pots and various iron items we found in the archaeological record. And what I wanted to go over today was how we're finding a lot of these items in survey, which is of course with metal detector survey. And The great thing about metal detector surveys is that no matter how small a site during the historic period, what do you think is going to be at that site?
Metal, something metal, hopefully.
Something metal, but what kind of metal?
Nails.
Nails.
Nail.
Yeah, nails
Yeah,
are
nails. Sure.
like Mary said last week, is Montpelier gold. So nails are what are at all these sites, whether it's a barn, a work shed, a storage shed, sometimes even fences, and even like a little cooking shed, and definitely at slave quarters and any kind of building. So these nails are what we rely upon to find all the sites across Montpelier. And how we do this overall is I'm going to share screens now, and you should be able to see the map that has all the green and red. This is the area where we're at right now. So we're at the overseer's house. I'm actually parked at this spot right here. I don't know if y'all can see my arrow where it's pointing.
Yes.
Okay, so we're parked here, and Dennis is doing the work down in this area. I'm sorry, actually we're parked about right here, looking down at Dennis behind me, and then the overseer's house is across the road here. But these squares are who knows what squares these are? Anybody remember or have a guess?
Hmm.
So you got the larger squares, and when you zoom in, that's when you get the 10-foot grid. But what are these broader squares? You know, like these green and orange and red squares.
To be done.
Pardon?
Unsurveyed.
Yeah, it's the survey. It's the metal detector survey on the 20-meter interval. So what we use the 20-meter interval for is basically to find the sites. We've got this 20-meter grid all across the property. So here's the main house right here. Here's the visitor center. This is the area where the temple is. And I haven't covered this yet in the lunch and learns, but some of y'all might know about it. Dennis found all these slave quarters out by the horse graves over by the temple last year. And so, you know, this is an area, all these red areas are hot spots all across the property where there's extremely dense sites. And when you zoom out, when you get further from the main house, what you'll see is, for example, in the field here, which is to the right of me in that direction, you have a lot of green and then occasionally some yellow and orange areas. These are, you're getting on the periphery of this main work complex, you know, that's between the main house, the visitor center, and where we are right here at the home farm. When you get further out on the property, the sites get very much more dispersed. And in metal detector survey, generally what you find is either, you know, in the fields, either nothing at all, no historic artifacts, or maybe a few. And in the case of these squares, for example, here, this square only had 3 historic hits in it. This one had a little more at 25, actually a lot more at 25, 20, and this one had about 25. So what we found in these squares right here were all nails and maybe one threshing tooth. So we're interpreting this as a barn, maybe a threshing barn or a storage barn. Down at the bottom of the hill, we have an area with a little same concentration, but down in this area, in this particular spot, we were finding a few buttons along with nails. So we're interpreting this could be a work area, but it was also a living spot. So it's probably, you know, a temporary slave quarter in this area. But then the rest of these locations, remember, this is all 20-meter survey. In the 20-meter survey, what we found is hardly anything in the fields. And occasionally, like I think it was this square right here, we actually found a threshing tooth where there might have been a mobile threshing machine. So, and that would have been for processing crops, you know, out in the fields. So what we're getting, even though we're not getting anything, you know, in terms of artifacts, either one or, you know, 0 or just one artifact, it doesn't mean that there was nothing happening here. These were all fields. And if you look at at what this area is, let me turn off the 20-meter grid here. Over on the side, you can see all this is fields today. All these are fields. And if we go up to the woods here, this is the East Woods. Here's where the archaeology lab is right here. Here's the pond, the ice pond. The temple's right here. Lewis Hall is right here. So some of you are probably a little oriented with the map here. This is all the woods that we've been doing survey over the past several years. And when you look at the 20-meter grids out here, what you see is, you know, a lot of green, but then there are some hot spots in here where we've got sheds and barns. And when we found these in the past, what we've done is we've gone in and done a 10-foot metal detector grid. And that's what Dennis is doing right now. So for example, with this shed, looks like I'm right under a walnut tree. So if I get knocked out, you know what happens. So walnuts are falling everywhere right now. Where this, you know, scatter of artifacts was from the metal detector survey, and this one we found 80 hits in this 20-meter grid. And then when we went in and did a 10-foot grid, we got a higher resolution on what these items were, and the main concentration was right in this area where the barn is. So what's great about these 10-foot surveys is, you know, after we find, you know, a concentration like this, we'll come in and lay out the more higher resolution grid on a tighter interval, and we go from kind of knowing where the barn is to really zeroing in where that barn is, in this case right in here. So, you know, in this 20-foot by 20-foot area, that would be the place we'd want to put in units to find evidence for that barn. And a few of these areas we have done this. If we zoom out here and go out to this tobacco barn right here, this is one of my favorite barns on the property. This one is a tobacco barn. It's in the middle of the woods, of the East Woods, you know, about a half a mile from anywhere from the lab. And when we went in and did 10-foot survey and started excavating hits, we found all these burned nails. Remember, Mary was talking about, you know, the annealed clean nails last week. Well, about 70% of the nails at this site were burned, which indicates that this structure burned, we think, sometime in the 1830s, and was never rebuilt. And so this is, you know, potentially an amazing structure to go and uncover. But we found very little in the way of hardly any tools. We're thinking it was a tobacco barn based on the tobacco fields being in these low areas that we've revealed through the LiDAR surveys. And I've got that that story map about the East Woods that I can send you all. If you're interested in this, put your email in the comments and I'll send it to you. But I've got a story map that goes over all this area and talks about what we found in this location. But then over but on the next ridge over, we found a concentration of nails here, and when we went in and did the 10-foot survey, we found quite a broad area of artifacts. And we're thinking that the barn was in this location here where you have hits of like 25 and 30. I think down here, your hit numbers are in the teens, so they're going into the 20s there. But in here we found threshing teeth that indicated this was probably a barn for threshing wheat. So it was a little more intensive. And then right beside all this is where we found the slave quarter that we did excavations on back in 2014. Would love to return to. There's one of our former staff who's finishing up his PhD at Maryland. Next month, he's going to be giving a lunch and learn. This is Stephen Wolke. You might remember him, Pat. He's gonna be given a talk about his dissertation that he just finished writing and is going to be defending very soon on African American sites at Montpelier. And this is one of the sites he studied for his dissertation. So, but getting back to where we are at right now, we're over here, you know, down from the visitor center. Here's the visitor center right here. We're downslope right across from the overseer's house. And in this area, what we've got is, you know, what these red squares represent are a mixture of, you know, this one large tobacco barn right here that we excavated back in 2012. And Dennis started doing survey on the block that's right here this past spring. And since then he moved down to the blacksmith shop because this is probably an unending project to continue this area. and he'll catch that next year. But we're trying to look at sites that have the highest potential that we'd want to do excavations on. We've already excavated this site. We'll probably put in a few units. He's getting into a concentration right here. If you zoom back, you can see this. It has 75 hits. This one has 75 hits. These are all about 75. But from his metal detector survey, the metal detector hits are starting to pick up in this area. So when he gets done with the blacksmith shop, he's going to continue this grid through here and finish up this area. And this is right down the hill from the parking lot. So if I turn off the 20-meter grid, you can see here's the visitor path going from the visitor center over to Mount Pleasant and the Madison Family Cemetery. And then these are all the black blobs are the parking lots and the roads for leading up to the visitor center. But where we're going to be looking at this afternoon is down in this area. And basically, there's a continuous set of hits all across here, going from the blacksmith shop up to the overseer's house and over to Mount Pleasant. And it's only when you start looking at the 10-foot interval with the metal detector survey that you start to see patterns. So you've got right here, you've got when you zoom in on the 10-foot survey, you can see where the overseer's house is. And if we get a little closer here, you can see where we've been putting in all our units. All these gray blocks are our 5x5 units. And it's this area right in here where we've got the best evidence for the structure. And if you look at the hits in here, it's 62, 60, 95 in here, 73. And actually, let me just put the, I'll put the hit numbers on this. Let's see, 10-foot grids. I'm not logged in, so I can't do that. What I can do is number each of these squares, but I'm not logged in at this point. But for when we look at the intersection between the blacksmith shop and the overseer's house, though, you can see there's this gap in here. And so that is right about where our tent is for the overseer's house. And then just behind the tent, the blacksmith shop is just showing up across the road, which is right behind me. And right behind me, you can see, if I get this, you can see the tents right there. Tents are right in that area. The blacksmith shop is just on the other side of Westgate Road and extends across to over where the gator is. And you probably can't see that because that's a little tiny square up in the top right-hand corner. So never mind, I still have the screen being shared. But what Dennis is doing right now is you can see these numbered points right here. This is what he's using to lay out the 10-foot grid. And so over the next month, he's going to be finishing this area. And what I'm hoping we're going to see is where this orange blob is here, that the top of this ridge should have some pretty good metal detector hits showing up in this area. And actually, I'm just going to sign in real quick. Let me see if this. Yeah, because what I want to do is bring up the LiDAR imagery, because what shows up in this area is, let's see, is some really interesting features. Remember, for the GIS, not only do we have the metal detector data, but we also have the LiDAR data. So if you see where where the red concentration is right here, this massive dense area of hits, when you turn off the metal detector grid and you look at the LiDAR, what you'll notice is there are these interesting features out here. There's a depression here, and then this kind of mounded area through here. When you're out there, the grass just got cut out there, you can really see these features. So we're really excited to have Dennis get up in this area and start to see what he begins to find with the metal detector survey. In the 20-meter grids, what he found is when he was at the top of this hill, this is like 3 years ago when he did this survey, he basically couldn't even swing his detector without encountering just hundreds of hits. And it's like right at the top of this hill right here where he encountered the densest areas. It was basically there were so many hits that he couldn't even put the flags in the ground, and he couldn't differentiate between the hits. So we're interested to see if some of these depressions, they could be later disturbances post, after the blacksmith shop. We're hoping not, but whether or not they could be where the actual buildings were, we'll have to see. So what we'll do now, does anybody have any questions about the grid and the overall metal detector surveys on the site?
No, it's really interesting, though. Very interesting.
Just a clarification, this is Gene. A metal detector hit means that the metal detector indicates something there, not that you've actually extracted it. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's exactly right, Gene. Hello, Gene. How are you? In the case of this square right here, Dennis came across a total of 13 hits. He only sampled 3 to make sure they were historic, and then he left the rest because obviously we don't want to just start digging up everything in the metal detector survey. It's a survey to allow us to figure out where to place units. But he samples enough to know that, okay, yes, these are historic hits. They're cut nails, they're rotten nails, and other historic debris that would indicate a Madison era site. There's other areas where if he encounters a lot of modern hits, he puts that in the notes, but he doesn't put that in this hit count. That's recorded elsewhere, so we can differentiate, say, a DuPont era dump where they, the DuPont workers rolled up a fence and they burned it, and there's a bunch of wire, barbed wire and wire nails there from an actual Madison era site. So these surveys are meant to be as basically as least intrusive as possible. And it's when we're opening up the units that we'll actually do the excavations. And what's really amazing about these surveys is, these sites are incredibly fragile. I mean, these sites, if this area down here had been plowed, it would have impacted so many of the features in this area. For example, the field quarter, a lot of the features we found at the field quarter were less than a foot in depth. So plowing would have taken those out. We still would have found the artifacts, but not have been able to define where the buildings are from the subfloor pits. And I think when we're excavating at the overseer's house, we're going to find these, because the overseer's house was plowed in the 20th century. We're going to find a lot of these features don't have a lot of strata left in them. But what we've got with all this is really the metal detector surveys bear witness to the sites of labor for African Americans. I mean, it's really the only way we're able to capture where a lot of these work areas are, the farriers, the sheds, the work areas, because as you all know, for Montpelier, there's no master map from the 18th or 19th century that shows where all these buildings are. And in so many cases, these buildings, their location changes over time. And what definitely wouldn't be recorded is what shows up in the LiDAR are these road traces that I'll have to do a talk on this at some point. What we've been able to figure out with the LiDAR is that, we literally have witness to the enslaved Americans that Madison held in bondage here at Montpelier with these sites. And so this is where working with the descendant committee is going to be really exciting to see, what they are interested in and finding out and representing about their ancestors' lives here at Montpelier, because this is in many ways the legacy of the descendant committee and the roles that their ancestors held while they were in bondage here at Montpelier. So with the overseer's house, all this area through here, while we're going to be doing about a year of excavations at the overseer's house after this season, a lot of our work is going to be focused on these work areas. And what we're anticipating as being one of the most exciting is the blacksmith shop. And like Mary mentioned last week, what's really cool about the blacksmith shop is so many of the artifacts that we find here at Montpelier that were iron, that were wrought iron, were likely made here on the property. So having the site where these are made being on the property is pretty amazing in terms of being able to learn more about production, access to goods, whether, the blacksmith was making some items for for slaves personally or just for work items, you know, how that was carried out and what flexibility they had in that area, or how they, you know, tried to work things into their own time to make things for the community. So what we'll do now is I'm gonna switch in. I'm gonna stop screen sharing, and I'm gonna go over to call over internet, and I'm gonna, yeah. No. Okay, now, all right, let's see. So I'm gonna get away from, all right. So hopefully, I'm kind of stepping away from the laptop here. Give me a high sign if you all can still hear me.
Yeah, we hear you, but your camera is not auto adjusting for the brightness. Everything is kind of washed out.
Okay. All right. So you can, but I'm heading over to Dennis, and you can see that.
Yes.
Okay, good deal. All right, then it's working. It hopefully will adjust, Gene. It is pretty bright out here. Let me know when it gets a little bit better. Is it looking better now?
No change.
No change? Okay.
All good.
Is it better now? It's good? Okay. All right. So Dennis is over here digging hits, and where Dennis is, can you all see all the flags that are in front of me?
You're looking at yourself.
Oh, I've switched it over. All right, thank you. Let me see. I do not need to be narcissistic here and look at myself. So there we go. That's a little better. So that's why y'all were having problems, is you're having to look at me, and then everything was bright behind me. So it was a double whammy. Well, out here, Dennis is out here metal detecting, and what he's done is he's laid out a grid. Remember, you know, on the computer, we had all the little squares, and we had the 10-foot grid. This is a 10-foot grid right in front of me. So the blue flags right here are one of these squares in this overall 10-foot grid. And I'm looking down one of the 10-foot avenues here. And then Dennis is right here in the middle of another 10-foot avenue with all kinds of red flags. And Dennis, how are you doing, Dennis?
A lot of noise in here.
Okay. Can everybody hear Dennis?
A lot of noise.
Okay, good deal. What's the density here looking like? Is it, you know, where is it getting denser and less dense?
The closer you get up to the top of the hill, it's actually getting to an overwhelming density. And then obviously the further down you get, it's thinning out considerably. So, you know, down at the very bottom, you know, I was getting only 2 or 3 hits in each grid. Up here, I'm putting in 30 flags, but I think there's more hits than that because I'm getting multiples out of every hole. So
you'll basically have one beep and you'll dig the hit, and you'll have how many hits in a hole?
that one had quite a few.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. And this, what do you have here, Dennis?
This is just random iron that was being forged into something.
Yeah, that's a pretty thick piece of iron.
So you can tell it's pretty thick and pretty raw up here. Looks like it's been worked down here.
It doesn't look like cast iron because it's really flaking and in rough shape.
Yeah. And then slag from the coal.
Mm-hmm.
A little nail. Just a little tidbit of something. A lot of times they have to trim some off. It's better to have more metal than not enough metal. These are little tidbits of tin.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
It's just, it crumbles. This was probably one piece and now it's three just from
Mm-hmm.
touching it. As you can see, there's bits of charred wood. I'm not sure if that's brick residue or if that's the mineral out here. And then
That definitely looks like a piece of brick right there.
even got quartz in it.
Oh yeah, that's definitely brick. So that could be brick residue there. I mean, one thing we'd expect out here, Dennis, is wherever the forge is, it would likely be made of brick.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not going to be making that out of clay.
This was sitting in here, and all I see is the quartz shining.
All
So
right.
I wasn't paying any attention to it. A piece of tin was next to it, and so I scraped away a little bit, and I saw that the edge was too smooth. So then I
Yeah,
popped it out.
that's cool. Yeah, you can see the scree line right there. The scree from making the bricks right in that location. That's cool.
That's good data.
Yeah, yeah. Do you have any slag this morning?
I got.
Oh, you got that piece right there. Okay.
I think I dug up. Yeah, I got another piece as well.
So Dennis has found a lot of slag out here. This is a lighter piece. But some of the pieces, you know, you said some of them are very loud.
Oh my goodness, yeah. Some of them are. You can hold two pieces that are the same size, and one could weigh 5-10 times as much.
And that's just from the amount of iron that's in there. Slag is a byproduct of blacksmithing. And in some cases, it's a byproduct of just the charcoal that's being used. In other cases, it's the waste product from the actual secondary blooming of the iron, the pig iron.
So here's another piece. I mean, it's all different shapes, sizes, alloys. It's all over the place on the scale. Trying to find it too. So.
When we were working over at the temple, several of y'all might remember, we were finding hundreds of pounds of slag. So somewhere out here, there's got to be a slag dump. We have not found that yet.
Yeah, I was expecting to find more in here because this spread looks like a dump.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all blacksmithing material, but it's all bits and pieces.
Yeah, the clipped iron. Do you have any examples of clipped iron this morning?
There's a piece down there that's got some clipping. The big one.
Yeah, let's look at that one because
well, here's one thing you always have to worry about.
Okay.
Brand new modern nail.
Yeah, so this is what we were talking about. I mean, you worry about it, but you take it into account. Several of y'all were asking, whether or not all the hits are excavated, and we sample enough. Like for example, in this 10 foot by 10 foot square, Dennis is only sampling 3. That's the standard number that we sample. And if there's modern hits in here, he'll pick it up. In this case, how many modern hits have you found so far?
I got a coin over there.
Okay.
This nail here, you can see the depth how deep the artifacts are.
Yeah, all these artifacts are found at this level.
5, 6, 7 inches deep. This is only 3.
Okay.
So this has a completely different sound when it's that much shallower.
Mm-hmm.
So since I found one, now I'm going to go through and listen to the rest of my hits. I'm going to pull the flag on anything that sounds exactly like.
Cool. So Dennis is able to differentiate just from the sound of his machine whether something is shallower, which would indicate it's modern, differentiate the iron from the ferrous from the non-ferrous, the iron from the non-iron. And what do you have here, Dennis?
This was just one big loud signal. It actually continues that back behind you.
Wow.
And
oh, that is so cool. This is some heavy gauge iron.
yeah,
It's not quite strap iron, but it's not like you were talking about, that not tin either.
yeah, this is
It's hand forged.
Definitely a medium.
Mm-hmm.
It's a heavy gauge. It's interesting. They all have holes in them.
So that would be for a nail going through there to secure it to a piece of wood.
Yeah. So every piece has a nail hole in it. So it's interesting to see if any of them fit together. See if it makes something bigger. But
oh, this is a cool piece. This is
it was a tool or something.
it does look like it. Almost looks like a bit, and then it's up here. It's not. It doesn't look like clipped iron. It's been hammered out.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure what that one was supposed to be.
And that looks like they were making a horseshoe nail. It's got big bulbous type head on it.
Well, it's been clipped right there.
Yep.
This is one of these pieces of iron that you can see where it's been cold clipped, meaning they would take a chisel and, you know, heat it to being red hot, but then they would take the chisel and cut it, and you'd get this little flange on it, or a not a flange,
Break mark word.
yeah, the break mark, I can't remember what that's called, but it's been clipped off there, and this is a small enough piece, or probably they just discarded it, and the bigger piece of iron that they're using, or maybe we're going to reuse, continue to be worked. So a lot of the iron that's out here that the blacksmiths are working were, you know, a piece that was a bigger piece that had failed, and they might take it and make a chisel out of it, out of a sometimes even a horseshoe, and then a lot of what you get here are these scrap pieces that are just too small to be used, and they don't have a way to smelt the iron out here. There's no indication of that. So, but you found bar iron, don't you? You found, but you have, yeah. And how big is the bar iron, if estimated with your hand?
I found them that big.
And that's probably the clipped end that's been
there's usually a
discarded.
clip end on it. So
Mhm.
I haven't found a whole chunk of it yet, but
And that would be from them buying the iron to then forge it into, you know, something quite large.
Yep.
But they would, I mean, the blacksmith shop, you know, ones that if you go to visit them, there are just piles and piles of iron because they don't want to use the new iron. They want to reuse old iron. I mean, today, like a mid 20th century blacksmith shop, it was leaf springs. That's what the favorite, you know, raw material was.
that's a very interesting piece there. But as always, there's modern contamination.
Oh, so what's this, Dennis? What do you have here?
1989 dime.
Oh my goodness. All right. So this is getting pretty close. I might have dropped this out here. I think I got to take this back, Dennis. So a Roosevelt dime right there. If anybody lost a Roosevelt dime, let me know. So
Thank you for fooling me.
yeah. Dennis says, please keep the dimes to yourself. Oh, you know what that is? It's a hoe. That is a huge hoe. I'm almost positive with that, this distinctive tip.
Yeah, but it looks like this was cut,
Or broke.
got cracks in it.
Yeah, this
is all
is
clipped off here, so it makes you wonder if they were taking an old hoe blade and
rebuilding it.
rebuilding it,
Yeah.
or taking pieces off that they need to make smaller things.
I bet this was a hoe blade that they're rebuilding, because this is the half section of this has been taken off. That is so cool, Dennis. Wow.
You can definitely see the clipped edge over here.
Oh my goodness. Oh my God. Could you hold that, Dennis? This is amazing. This is an exact demonstration. If you look on the profile here, you can see this edge right here where it's been cut. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
And then right here, you see the same thing. And then they broke it off, and a little bit of it, you can see where they've punched here and here. It's kind of like if you're like cutting into a piece of fudge, or maybe a piece of ice, or masonry, and you clip along and you're hoping that it'll continue all the way to the edge. It broke right here when they snapped this off. That is amazing.
But it's interesting seeing how the metal's been folded before.
Oh yeah, it's a compound piece, and then where it failed for the the rest of the hose right here. That is so cool, Dennis. I have never seen that.
And I'm not
Holy
sure
cow.
if this piece was cut out and attached to something else or
I
not.
see what you mean. It could be, but that is beautiful.
Yeah.
This piece, that is so classic. That is so classic. Wow, you made my my week there, Dennis. Thank you.
But, you know, and I found an unusual anomaly here where there's nothing in the middle.
So describe this, Dennis. So you show everybody where the flags are and what you're noting.
Well, BDU is about 15 feet.
So you've metal detected all this.
This is all metal detected. See how it goes from 30 to 90.
So I'm turning around on the rest of this grid. You can see all the hits in here.
And then within 10 feet, your grid gets cut in half if you're standing in.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe 10, 15 flags in that one. And then this grid here has maybe 6, 7 flags. So
Okay.
it's dropping significantly, which is definitely different than what, I mean, it drops off down there, but not quite as quickly as it drops off
Well,
over here.
yeah, this is some kind of blank location. It looks like hopefully it hasn't been disturbed, or there might have been some sort of, I mean, you've metal detected in here as well.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe there could have been a building here. I don't know. It's these
Possible.
these blank areas, if they're not disturbed, indicate there was something here and then it was removed. And that's amazing. This is where, you know, trying to open up units out here, like for example, this grid right here, this grid here.
I haven't.
Oh, but this one right here, you only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 hits. If we came in and did 5x5s in this,
The one you're standing in only.
okay. But any of these that have under 20 hits, you think about doing a 5x5 in here, in a single 5x5, which is a quarter of these 10x10s, 5x5 excavation unit, you'd only have 1 or 2 nails, which is a lot of effort to expend opening up a unit. When with a metal detector survey, what basically Dennis is doing is we're able to recover, you know, all the information here in a matter of like a half hour. And then, you know, leave enough for all the stratigraphy is intact in here. When Dennis, when you sample the ground, what normally kind of soil do you see out here?
It's usually it seems pretty consistent.
Do if you find a bunch of charred wood and ash.
Stop. That's what I did. Top hole there.
Okay.
There actually is another signal in the middle of the hole.
Is that one that's open right now?
Yeah, it's the first one with the brick.
Oh, with the brick and the charred wood. Okay.
Brick, charred wood. All of the hits that I was recovered are within this much of where I dug already. So
Okay.
I just
Okay.
recovered the easy stuff, but the hole still has a faint signal down at the bottom. So it could be more of that 10 that just broke off.
Mm-hmm. But with all the charred wood and brick, you know that there could be some sort of feature there.
Yeah, my job's done. I found what I'm looking for.
Which is, hey, put a unit here. So that's what we're gonna do out here is we're gonna take all of Dennis's notes, which are being recorded on an iPad and going into the grid, you know, just like we were showing you earlier, and we'll pop out anything that's charred wood, and then that'll be something we'll want to investigate in a unit. And then what we're also going to do is wherever the blue flags are, we're this either probably next spring we're going to come in and do shovel test pits, and we'll understand what the stratigraphy is. We'll probably keep those shovel test pits. Dennis will give us an idea where to put the shovel test pits, probably where we've got red hits. So like in the maps I was showing you all, where you get into concentrations greater than like 40 or 50, we'll probably limit the shovel test pit survey to that. And then hopefully find features and understand the stratigraphy a lot better. So, because what Dennis tries to do is he, like he was just describing, he tries to keep his excavations quite shallow so he doesn't, you know, just start pockmarking the whole site. And, but you're getting, you know, like when you pop off the sod, you're at the 1840 surface. So you're going to have all kinds of artifacts to sample.
Yeah, you get, when you walk into a site, if the ground's undisturbed or hasn't been disturbed in a long time, the artifacts usually start at a certain level down. So I know how deep to dig. When I pop my plug out, I'm usually right at the level where the artifacts begin.
So you've got about 5 or 6 inches of topsoil and sod out here that have developed since the 1840s.
Yeah, at least 5 inches in the artifacts.
And from your holes, I mean, let's go and look at one of these plugs. It's pretty cool. From these holes, like this one, I can see like even some of the pebbles here. You got this, you know, right on. And how deep was this dime?
It was actually down here.
Oh, it was down here.
But
Okay.
it fell in my hole.
Oh, it fell in the hole. Okay.
Yeah, I was
All right.
removing this, and then when I stood up, wasn't finding it. It was back in the hole again.
It had fallen back in the hole. Okay.
So it was probably at 3 inches.
So I've seen it where you get, like, here's a really nice example where you dug this plug and you've got the slag here, but then you've got this collection of pebbles, which would have been the yard surface. Can you all see this, or am I bleaching it out?
No, we can see it. I can see it.
Okay. Dennis has found all these pebbles. This is the top of the yard surface. All this right here is the topsoil that's developed over the past, 180 years. So, and in the hole here, this, me getting a shadow here, this right here, I'm touching right here. This is the 1840s surface that when the slaves, the enslaved Americans here were sold and they abandoned this area for use, this is where the ground surface was, and all this has been built up from topsoil.
Yeah. See, there's no pebbles.
Yeah, no
in the
pebbles in
sides
that.
at all.
Yeah. hmm So it's a lot more than just going out and digging stuff up. There's the grid, there's looking at the soils, there's the patterning. It's you know, some of what we're going to be the most excited about are areas where probably Dennis doesn't dig anything, because you've just got so many hits that.
Yeah.
Let's go up here and see some of that.
So what I had done a 20-meter grid out here about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
When
Flies.
when I got to the top of the hill up here, I had one metal signal, and it was 35 meters in length and 25 meters in width.
Wow. So
My
we're
machine-
talking like 70 by 60, 70 feet by 60 feet.
I thought there was a car or something buried in the ground up here. So I just randomly walked out to the dead center of it. I dug a hole. There was nothing for 5 inches. And then between 5 and 6 inches, I pulled 48 artifacts.
Wow.
I had unfinished keys that were being made, slag, nails, clipped iron.
That's so cool. I've got a picture of you. Dennis looks like the Cheshire cat out here with a smile on his face. It's
Quite the hole to see keys. I mean, the skill to make, because when you're making the keys, you're making the lock at the same time, so they work together.
yeah.
That's quite the skill level to be able to manufacture something and put it together.
Yeah, we got to talk to a blacksmith about that, is whether the keys would come from somewhere else. But you said you find key points. Yeah.
So, you know, every key has a ring on it.
Mhm.
On your belt.
These are skeleton keys that Dennis is
One
finding.
of them had the ring. The other one had just a blob of metal.
Wow.
And you can see the shank on the key, and then you can see a triangular block
Mhm.
that had not been cut into the combination for the lock key.
Holy cow.
So they are
Wow.
right in the middle of making.
So that must have been filed or something. So that's amazing.
So I'm sure one person was making a rough copy of the keys, so they have it ready to go. And then when they make the lock, they're cutting the combination into the key.
Yeah, where the notch of it. Well, let's go where that feature is, Dennis. That depression.
This one over here.
Yeah. So I showed everybody on the LiDAR imagery. This shows up, and you can see this slight mound. So what Dennis was pointing out to me, he's going to stand in the middle of where this depression is. So you can see Dennis just kind of walked down into that depression. And then all around, you've got this slight mound here that levels off, and then the slope immediately drops off. So whether or not this, and then there's something over here. Oh, there it is down there, Dennis. Right, this guy. This is yeah. Walk into that. You can just see Dennis's body go down. Yeah, right there. Yeah. So be really curious when you get the grid over here. This is where we have to be patient. We got to just, march the grid from over to here. We can't just race over here and start metal detecting. So,
Do in a specific order to
and
get ahead of yourself.
like I was mentioning when we started, can you all see the slave quarters behind Dennis?
Yes.
So yeah, the houses over there were probably, being lived in by, some of the blacksmiths here. And actually at one of those, the one I'm pointing at, the one with the chimney, we found a Tuvier blowhole, which is this clay, it's a burnt clay tube that when we found it, we were like, this looks like something from a blacksmith shop. This is in 2011. We're like, that's weird. There's no blacksmith shop out here. And less than 4 years later, Dennis did the survey, and that's where this blacksmith shop showed up. So if y'all remember the temple, which is over at the main house, that's where the 18th century blacksmith shop was. So during the American Revolution, and when Dennis and Lance were out metal detecting, and Tony, last year, you all found the mother lode there. What did you find in one of the holes you found?
Temple?
Yeah.
Oh, every hole that we opened up had clipped iron, slag, just everything. So the same stuff that we're finding here, it's just it looked older. Everything was hand wrought.
And it was all, I mean, we had done surveys in 2013 where we found, in a 10-foot grid, we'd find 30 or 40 hits. You were finding hundreds and hundreds of hits. I think you all found where the main blacksmith shop was.
Yeah, Tony opened up a hole, and I think he had 20 or 30 hits in one hole.
It was the kind of density that you're talking about, just to my left, right up here. So it'll be interesting to see how this site compares to the temple, both in size, and then whether or not, like where Dennis is, here's a slave quarter there, is whether it was a slag dump down in this area, or it's more in that location. So,
and when I did the 20-meter survey, there were 2 burned buildings over there.
Where are those burned buildings?
Halfway to the wood line, just about.
Oh wow! So on this, basically this ridge heading down. That is awesome.
And,
okay.
You open the hole up, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 burned nails, 100% burned, came out. Burned nails are beautiful. They just look like the day they were made.
Yeah. Mary showed those to everybody last week during the lunch and learn.
Yeah,
so
they're one of my favorites, but they sound different than normal rusty nails. So.
Okay, they actually sound. Yeah, do they sound like brass?
They still sound like nails. They just sound a little bit better. So I'm expecting 2 artifacts to be in a hole.
Okay, all right.
And then, open the hole up. There's a burned nail, and then that is it. So my machine does crazy things. If it's flat, curved surface, burned, rusted, it all changes the way the eddy currents come off, and that's all turned into audio for me to listen to. So, it has some characteristics of being a nail, but it has other characteristics that just make you scratch your head. What's going on here?
Okay.
So that's the good thing about digging the samples, is I get to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, you hear the sounds, and then you're able to confirm it with what it is. And then the next time, because Dennis he gets keyed in on the soils, so that's where he can make inductive guesses on what the sounds are, and then he digs enough where he can either prove or disprove it in his own mind, and then from there on out, he's like, okay, this is what slag sounds like, this is what a cut nail, this is what a burnt nail sounds like. So
I mean, when I did the overseer's house over there, Matt asked me to find a specific type of nail from the time frame from the overseer's house to try to separate the Mount Pleasant from the overseer's house.
All the cut nails.
So Matt specifically told me to go out and just only dig cut nails. So that's what I did. It took me a little while to get rolling, but I was able to tell the difference between the two. And, that tells us the size of the site, how far it goes. Obviously, the sites overlap a little bit.
Yeah, this is the original Mount Pleasant site from the 18th century. Yeah. So, well, if anybody, we have our normal expeditions that we run like with the units, but we also do the metal detector expeditions, and we can provide a metal detector, and you can, some people buy and, show up and they've just bought a metal detector, and Dennis will help you know which one to buy, and then you can help us with these surveys. So we just started for the last 2 years, we've integrated in our expedition members with metal detectorists, which is a lot of fun. You get to pick Dennis's brain. Well, we have Dennis here. Anybody want to pick Dennis's brain for any information? He's hiding his brain.
Matt?
Yeah.
This is Harold. Hanky, how you doing?
Good, Harold. How are you? Good to hear
Pretty good.
you.
So where are you going to be detecting in November?
In this November, we're actually not holding a metal detector program. We're going to be doing a woods program out in the East Woods, which is way beyond above Dennis's head out there. But we're looking to either schedule a metal detector program for the spring, but more likely the fall. The virus has made it really difficult to do with the metal detector program. There's a lot of close proximity. In fact, Dennis and I should be wearing masks. I just got excited about all this and didn't put mine on. But we with our metal detector programs, we're going to pick those up in the fall of 2021. There's just too much close interaction that needs to happen. But we're going to be out here. We're going to be the next metal detector program in the fall. We have this entire field. You can see all the 10-foot grid in here. That Dennis needs to do this entire area. So there's Dennis. Here's all the field. So we need to, hopefully, whenever there's a vaccination or a remedy for the COVID, we'll be able to start this. So
Yeah. The amount of flags that you see out here, that's not even 10% of the project. So
yeah,
to give you
it's
an idea of the size of this one project. And there's at least 7, 8 sites out here.
yeah. We metal detected the field quarter back in 2012 on 10-foot grid, so that's done. But then I was showing you all the grids that are at the top up here, right above where my finger is. Dennis has like about 10th or 20th or about a fifth of that done. And once he's done with the blacksmith shop, which is going to be all this area through here, then he'll go up there. And yeah, it's gonna. You've done this area over a course of the past 2 months, August and September.
Pretty much, yeah. Month and a half.
Yeah. So, and I'm gonna try to see if I can get to the chat here because I saw. Chat 3. So behind Dennis to the right is a depression in the ground. Is that the remnant of a pond? Oh, is this down? Peggy, you're asking.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can't see it right now, but when I was seeing it earlier, it's there where the gators parked. There's a depression in the ground where the grass has grown up. Was that a pond? Does that connect into the well up at the overseers? Is that?
Oh, I see. Yeah. I think I might be pointing up to it now. That's just where they didn't cut the grass. There was a pond here in the Madison's time period. That was down. That's down in this direction. So the mill, the Madison era mill, is at the bottom of the hill, and then all this bottomland in here was flooded as a pond. And you're right, Peggy. They would need water at a blacksmith shop. That would be a major part of the operation. And the stream that runs along the bottom here, just inside this fence where all the overgrowth is, that stream is one of the few streams at Montpelier that runs year round. And the stream heads in this direction and then fed the mill pond down at the bottom. And that's where, where Chicken Mountain Road is back. If we're here in 1820, all that was underwater. And that's where Dennis found a road trace that runs through here across the top of this ridge. So hopefully something you'll be able to pick up.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out, I knew they'd have to have a water source, but I was trying to place where it would be. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no, thanks, Peggy. That brought up a good issue with the pond.
Pretty good wet spot down there too. When I was following the road across the field, they actually curved the road around.
Oh, okay. Maybe that's a spring head down there. Could be. These spring heads fill in, and but if Tess and I were just out in the woods the other day, and there's a little spring, and we scooped it out, and the water started flowing. So there could be something down there. Let's see if there are any other questions. I'm on my phone, so this is if that isn't it. More chat. Oh, ask Dennis to speak louder. Sorry, Debbie. Hopefully you were able to hear everything. Well, cool. Well, Dennis, thank you so much. I don't know. Does anybody else have any questions about metal detecting for Dennis or life here at Montpelier?
Just hello, Dennis, from Pat. Hello.
Pat says
Been a
hi.
long time since we got to chat.
Well, thank you, Dennis, for spending some time with us today and showing us what you've been doing. Dennis has been here since 2014. Yeah, so it was April of 2014, and right behind Dennis Chicken Mountain is where he got his start up there. So, and Dennis has a background in surveying and unexploded ordnance, so he's been a real asset to what we've got.
Swinging detectors for 35 years as well.
Thank you.
That helps as well. So,
Never gets old.
yeah. Cool. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in today. Next week, we're going to be live at the site because we're going to have the final expedition for the season up at the Overseer's site. So we'll get you all tuned in on what our finds are on Wednesday. And then I'm going to be, hopefully by Saturday morning, we'll have all of the newsletter done, and I'll send that out to everybody, and that'll have the schedule for our programs for the rest of October. So, but thank you so much for tuning in today, and good to see you all.
Thanks a lot.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Matt.
Thanks very much.
Bye, everybody.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Dennis.
Okay. Bye, Peggy.